The last time we spoke to a military analyst, a war historian, Tom Cooper, was a few days after Operation Sindoor, when we were picking up the pieces, picking up satellite images and going through details of the kind of destruction that we had left on Pakistani soil, how Indian Air Force had struck Pakistan hard. Tom Cooper was one of the first global military analysts who came on Republic, stuck his neck out and spoke of the extensive damages inflicted on Pakistan. And Tom, what a time to be speaking to you again. Over the weekend, we were busy with the Indian Air Force chief, going on record with 5 jets and another AWACS/Elinth plane that was taken down by India. Now, those were just 6 planes taken down. And he also spoke of possible damage in hangars, which we discussed in the last time we spoke. Tom.
Hello, nice to be with you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Tom, so when you look at the numbers, do you think there is much more that hasn't been, shared in public? He spoke about 5 jets. He spoke about an AWACS system. What more have you been able to gather in the last couple of months?
Well, for the start, one should keep in mind that he was talking, Air Chief Marshal was talking about Pakistani aircraft shot down by Indian air defenses only.
Yeah.
So he was not talking about Pakistani aircraft shot down by Indian Air Force aircraft in air-to-air combat. That is one point. And another point is that obviously the Indian intelligence, military intelligence and Indian armed forces are not very keen to reveal how well do they know what is going on or what kind of damage they have caused to Pakistani Air Force in particular. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they are not going into discussing anything they cannot show on photographs. And correspondingly, they are not talking about more, but what is obviously through satellite photographs, what is obvious to have been destroyed. For example, a hangar at Polari Air Base in Balbarpur, and where this hangar was hit probably by BrahMos or Storm Shadow missile, and where an F-16 is visible inside in badly damaged condition, or another hangar where a Saab 2000 was destroyed inside, according to reports from Pakistan Air Force personnel published in the social media. So they're cautious, and they're waiting for Pakistanis to make similar mistakes like they have done already before, and in May again. And that is fine that way, They know what have they done. They know that Pakistanis know even better what kind of damage India has caused. So they are not under pressure to reveal anything more than absolutely necessary. Point is, the Indian Air Force has run a very well executed, really precisely and truly surgical campaign of missile strike on Pakistan, on selected targets in Pakistan. Has won this war easily, relatively with ease. The start was not that good, but it concluded this war in a particularly spectacular fashion, disabling Pakistani, nuclear bluff, calling it, so then disabling the air defenses, disabling many of air bases. So, it was enough to cause this much damage, to send a message, you are finished. If you continue this way, even your entire country is likely to fall apart. So pick your choice and then let us know. And this is what the Pakistanis did.
You used the word cautious. Many analysts that I have been speaking to, we have been speaking to here at Republic, feel that, of course, our armed forces are extremely professional, unlike, their counterparts in Pakistan. Mm-hmm. They're very conservative with the figure.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to compare them to Pakistan, but they're very conservative with what they have said on record. In your view, what is the extent? How many planes do you think have been taken down / destroyed in Operation Sindoor itself on the Pakistani side?
Well, I would dare going to figures between 20 and 30 at least.
Wow.
Because we are talking here about multiple strikes on hangars, on parking facilities, on so-called tarmacs of Pakistani air bases, and aircraft shot down in air combats by air-to-air missiles from long range. So when you put all of this together, it's a lot, quite likely, a lot, simply because otherwise Pakistani Air Force would have managed to hit seriously a bigger number of targets inside India, which it didn't manage to. So conclusion is on hand that They couldn't. And why they couldn't? Because Indian Air Force was shooting them down, or at least forcing them to abort their missions on time, so scoring so-called mission kills. This is a situation where you don't shoot the enemy down, but you force him to abandon his operation and return to base without doing his job. But anyway, we are talking about, or at least that's my assessment, 20 to 30 Pakistani aircraft shot down or destroyed on the ground.
Yeah. I don't know whether you've heard the comment of the Pakistani Army Chief, Field Marshal Munir. He was in America, and I don't know whether he's still in America, whether he's returned from America, but he's made a comment to the effect of saying that if there is another war with India, he says there is a risk of half the world being destroyed when nukes are used. Now, what do you make of such comments? As a military analyst, when an army chief, he was an army chief last we spoke, he's in field marshal today, right? When he goes to America and makes a comment like that, what are the kind of global repercussions that you see, Tom?
Nothing. Because he is playing into Trump's hands. So this is all part of this telenovela between Pakistan and the United States. The commander of the CENTCOM being awarded the highest Pakistani military decoration without anybody knowing why. In turn, he's calling Pakistan the closest ally in anti-terror war, while top Pakistani politicians are declaring the Muslim League for a front of multiple terrorist organizations. I mean, this is circus. You know, a circus is a well-organized professional organization. This is not even that. This is far from that. This is all, just bubbling for the purpose of making somebody in the White House happy, so that Trump can feel as a peacemaker, a deal broker, and somebody who has done so much to save Pakistan or to help Pakistan defeat India. This is like two 5-year-old children are discussing whose father is stronger. It's like that. It has a similar quality. So what shall one do with all of this? So
I was wondering whether leaders in Europe, countries in Europe, had a view when something like this happens, right? Because for some reason the European Union takes Trump and America seriously, at least on record they do. But when something like this happens, right? I mean, how do you justify that? On one hand, you say you condemn terror. On the other hand, you call Asim Munir and make him your chief guest. It's a complete joke going on. How does Europe look at that?
Look, you cannot explain this in reasonable fashion. We have a total degeneration of thinking in regards of politics and strategic assessments, military assessments in the West in general over the last 30 years. We are getting ever more stupid by day. You can monitor this in assessments by knowledge experts and former intelligence service operatives and whoever else, and they're all greatly, fantastically paid and meeting on conferences in tailored suits and, with their big necklaces with names and whatever, name tags, blah, 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 and talking, so fantastically. And one is better than the other. And essentially, look at the situation in Ukraine, just as a perfect example. In 3 years, neither USA nor Europe have managed to organize themselves sufficiently to say, okay, let's launch production of armament and ammunition, so to rearm Ukraine and enable Ukraine to defeat Russia. In 3 years, they couldn't even get themselves, their own industry, so far as to rearm themselves, because this is also necessary. We have sent, not us as Austrians, we are neutral, but all of NATO, all of the West has sent all the possible armament, all the possible ammunition to Ukraine. And now we don't have even enough to defend ourselves. So then then you have these fashionable announcements and assessments. Putin is going to invade NATO in 2 years. No, it's going to be in 3 years. No, it's going to be in 5 years, at least in 10 years. I mean, this is theatrical, all of this, absolutely nonsensical. But because one of the acclaimed expert is claiming this, then everybody is repeating the story. Then if you have Russi in UK saying so, then Poles are saying the same, French are saying the same, Swiss, who are also neutral, are saying the same, or assessing the same, Germans anyway, and so on and so on. Where half of these experts are paid by who knows who, many of them by the Russians, for example, others by Lockheed Martin, by Boeing, by Airbus or EADS and so on, companies, corporations, in order to spread what these corporations or what these politicians or super rich want the public to think. So they're preaching something which is making absolutely no sense, but they're preaching it on behalf of somebody else.
Yeah.
And correspondingly, now it's fashionable to explain, for example, Putin is going to invade NATO as next, as soon as Ukraine falls. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, everybody was talking about, Ukraine just needs one big win and the war is over. And so in early 23, everybody was rearming under apostrophes, everybody, because what they sent was laughable to Ukraine. Everybody was sending armament to Ukraine and ammunition and so on. And now Ukraine is going to drive to Melitopol and then to the Azov Sea. The Russians are going to collapse and flee and whatever else. The operation was as poorly planned and executed as Allied landing at Anzio in Second World War. So you have this daydreaming, actually. All of this on behalf of what? There is just one factor in all of this. The general assessment here in the West is that one cannot defeat Russia. Therefore, better not to try it. Even more so because who knows what is going to happen if Russia is defeated.
No,
I'm calling this modeling the outcome. They're not thinking about solutions. They're thinking about ways of keeping things, maintaining some sort of status quo, maintaining the situation the way it is, and that's it.
Yeah.
No major changes, no major action, no major doing something that is making sense in long term. No, everybody's thinking perhaps next 3 months ahead, but not more. And now you ask me, what are the effects of what Pakistani Prime Minister, or in this case,
Air Marshal, Field Marshal, yeah.
Air Marshal is announcing in the public. Nobody listens to this. Nobody's paying attention. Because Pakistan, everybody, within the establishment, everybody knows that the Pakistani generals are sending their sons and daughters to best possible universities in the West. At the same time, they are supporting the Taliban and similar jihadists inside Pakistan, exporting them from anywhere from Philippines to Nigeria, and therefore running a jihad import-export business.
Yeah.
But no, that is fine, that is okay, they are our close allies, they are our allies because Pakistanis say, we are your allies, we are your friends, At the same time, three quarters of Pakistans were celebrating the withdrawal of the Western allies from Afghanistan 4 years ago, sorry. That is forgotten, nobody cares about this.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. So you have lots of absurdities in the entire situation. And you have this mindset of the fish, that everybody forgets what was going on just 5 minutes ago. And this is the Western politics. This is the Western security establishment.
Yeah.
This is the way West is thinking nowadays. There's no continuation in all of this. There's no strategy. There's no planning at all. Until today, 3 years into the war in Ukraine, the West has no strategy against Putin. The West has no strategy for supporting Ukraine, not to talk about defeating Putin. So how can you expect the same West to have any kind of strategy vis-a-vis India or Pakistan?
Yeah.
The only strategy they know is, we have to sell more TVs and cars and whatever else to China. And entire companies, please, corporations, sell them also to China, high-tech corporations, that's fine. Nobody needs the industry here in the West. Let the Chinese manufacture for us. Everything is fine this way. When you compare, for example, Indian people, average people in India, they are reading newspapers, they are watching TV news, they care, they are trying to educate themselves, they are trying to educate their kids. You don't experience this in the West anymore. There is a small number of people who seriously care. They are watching just the kind of news they want to see and want to hear. and the rest is not interesting for them.
Yeah.
So how should somebody who is absolutely focused on actually enabling super rich to administer, to actually bribe them, so they as politicians would administer in favor of super rich? How should such people think about what is some, excuse me for expression, general or prime minister or whatever, or president, name it from wherever, whether it's Vanuatu or Pakistan or San Marino or Nigeria, telling in the public they don't care at all.
Yeah.
Excuse me, this is really that way. Of course, when it is about, when there is some press conference or summit or whatever, or major conference, then they are going to call their advisors and say, what should I say? What should I say? What should I say in this case? And if they ask me this, and if they ask me about Pakistan, what should I say? Oh, just tell them we are allies and Pakistanis are fine and everything is great. This is how the West works.
It's
you can, yes, hold yourself by your head and cry, nothing else. It is like that.
In your response, I heard the frustration, and I'll tell you what.
Yes.
I'll tell you what we've been going through in the last, especially 2 to 3 weeks, right? You had an American ambassador sitting in Delhi a few years back who said, we want Indians to buy Russian oil. It was an American ambassador to India saying, we want you to buy Russian oil. Today, the same America is saying, how can you buy Russian oil? It's insane, the mindless, like you said, I mean, there is no continuity.
One hand does not know what is the other hand doing.
Exactly, there's no continuity, right? Anyway, I mean, I don't want to get into that, but I got a response. I hear your frustration, and I completely agree with you. I'm going to the next question of a comment that was made by the Indian Army Chief. In fact, the speech itself was made public yesterday when the Army Chief, General Dwivedi, said that we are ready in case there is a war with Pakistan soon. Yeah. He said there is a possibility of a war with Pakistan soon. Now, interestingly, Operation Sindoor is on. It's paused. It's ongoing. In your view, do you see that happening? How do you read the situation?
Well, I read the situation like this. Pakistanis aren't going to attack India again, not even in form of a terrorist attack, without rebuilding their air defenses and without massively improving the defense of their nuclear facilities. And that is going to take them a few years at least. Why not? Because they know they have now got a first-hand lesson in what happens if they can't protect themselves, or if they can't protect their air defenses. I mean, air defenses which cannot protect themselves from airstrike. I mean, this is already absurd, but this is Pakistan. And then you have nuclear facilities where it is known for 20 years or something that these nuclear facilities are poorly protected, so poorly protected that there were times the US Marines were protecting Pakistani nuclear facilities. This is really another place where I'm holding myself by my head.
I'm coming to that next.
Face pounding myself. So, without this, Pakistan can't do anything. Why? Because in the case it starts a new war or launches another terror strike on India. What happens as next? India repeats the exercise, demolishes Pakistani air defense system, starts demolishing nuclear facilities, and then if Pakistan does not stop at that point in time, then India goes on and starts disabling the Pakistani army. And as is well known, foremost to the Pakistanis, the Pakistani army needs a country which it can control. It controls the economy, it controls the politics in Pakistan. And if the Pakistani army is weak and below a specific level, then the entire country is falling apart. And what do you have? You have another Somalia, but with nuclear bombs somewhere in some facilities which are not fully protected, and with F-16s and HQ-9s. So it's much worse situation. This is also a core reason why India stopped when Pakistan called on 10th of May. Because New Delhi is conscious enough and professional enough, serious enough. You can disagree with the government, you can dislike the government as much as you like, whatever it is. I'm a neutral Austrian. I must not like this government, but I can say that this government was conscious enough to say, okay, we don't want another Somalia in Pakistan. If they are calling for a ceasefire, okay, fine, we have demolished them enough. Message delivered, thank you very much, good night.
Yeah.
And this is why they stopped.
Yeah. Great. You spoke about the Pakistani Marines, and in fact, since we last spoke, it's becoming increasingly clear that Americans had a presence there, right? It's very clear now that they had a presence in many/most of these air bases, including in Sargodha, Kirana Hills, nuke facilities. They had a presence, and it's becoming increasingly clear with the way Trump is reacting now, right? And how he's taken sides, and the response of the US Army, the CENTCOM, all of them. It's clear that they were there. Now, one general even went to the extent of saying, I won't be surprised if Americans suffered any damage at all. Now, there's nothing on record. Is there anything that you've been able to get from your study/research?
Well, I know that they are there, they were there, and they're going to be there. Now, how many, at what basis is secondary? Mostly it's just one or two people, and not even all the time. They are just under apostrophes. Foremost, you have a U.S. mission, military mission to Pakistan, and when there is a need for this or that, especially to count F-16s, because, F-16s are armed with weaponry, which is, as we know, since, February 2019, they have migrating air-to-air missiles, which are flying every year, from Pakistan to India and back. And then they crash sometimes in India, and Indians are collecting pieces and showing them in the public. But Pakistanis didn't fire these missiles. Anyway, from time to time, there is a necessity to do such checks, to count the number of aircraft, for example, because Pakistanis demand specific spare parts for them, or specific kind of services from US companies, and then this military mission goes over there and checks, okay, let's see if this is necessary, or if that is necessary, or if they have some kind of technical glitches. That happens time and again. Aircraft have extremely complex machinery. Okay, then the US Air Force airmen go over there and check where is the problem with the aircraft in question, or if the Indians claim one or another F-16 for shot down, then they go over there and count them. It happens as well. We have all of this because the USA are all the time explaining that they are not tying their armed cells to political conditions, but actually they very much do.
Yeah.
So, and of course, French equipment, when you have Rafale with Storm Shadows or Scalp PGs, then they want to see this wreckage of French missiles in particular, also Meteor air-to-air missiles. Although they are even testing Meteor air-to-air missiles on F-35s, but they still want to have a look what is inside Meteor air-to-air missiles delivered by France to India, for example. So they are doing this is their kind of job, actually intelligence gathering of different style, and they're not actively espionage on India or somebody else, but they are there. And if the opportunity arises, they go places, contact their Pakistani liaison officers and ask them, look, listen, I would like to see that pieces of that Heron wreckage or a Storm Shadow wreckage or BrahMos wreckage, which is highly interesting for Americans because BrahMos, as made in India, is entirely different than what the Russians originally designed, or Soviets originally designed. So it's entirely different radar or guidance section, entirely different warhead, entirely different engine, and so on. So this is what is interesting for them. And this is why they are present in Pakistan.
Wow. Now, for the first time, I've come across that. I mean, when you say that US may have perhaps not just inspected, but taken away parts of the wreckage or sent parts of the wreckage to the US, very interesting. I'm going to take that as one of the headlines. But my last question to you, Tom, is you see, suddenly in the last 2 weeks, you can thank Trump for it, there is changing dynamics in the subcontinent. Suddenly, there is excitement in China, more than India. Excitement in China. Suddenly, Chinese want to warm up to India. And they're very excited about the Prime Minister's visit to China. It's the first time since the Galwan clash that took place that he will be traveling to China. And they're making noises backing India in the fight against Trump, right? So obviously a lot of people thanking Trump, blaming Trump for bringing India and China closer together. I asked a question to a former member of the State Council of China who I spoke to a few hours back on what he felt about this possible meeting. Now, the Chinese are especially excited because they feel after almost a decade or decade and a half, there is a possible reset in ties between India and China. But I also asked him, what happens to the China-Pakistan equation? He says we want to have good equations with both India and Pakistan. Right now, with this situation, what role do you see China playing? Because we know they gave tactical support to Pakistan, right, when Operation Sindoor happened. If India warms up to China, is that a good sign?
The Western politics in general, as explained earlier, is debilitating its own capabilities and influence around the world. Essentially, nowadays, at earlier times, if the USA or major European powers would say stop to Pakistan or to New Delhi, then Pakistan or Islamabad or New Delhi would think twice before not stopping. So they would more likely stop. Let us recall the situation in 1965, 1962, even in 1971.
Yeah.
When threats were expressed, and New Delhi and Islamabad had to listen to these threats. Even in 1999, in Kargil War, the West was still capable of exercising pressure upon the two governments. Yeah. But meanwhile, through own actions, through own double standards, the West has debilitated its own capability to influence affairs far away from the West. And India is becoming very interesting. It's as simple as that. Why? Because India has, 1.5 billion population. It's a giant market. People, a young population which is thriving, which is attempting to develop itself, to enjoy the life. And the Chinese have a huge production capacity. So this is their way of thinking. The only thing, or what one has to monitor in such cases are the conditions within the leadership of the Communist Party of China, or Chinese Communist Party. What do they think? And the way they think is that they have promised to the population of China the welfare, that everybody is going to enjoy a good life. And they have to stick to that promise, otherwise they are facing a possible general popular uprising in China.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not an immediate threat. There is no option, or it is not very likely this is going to happen tomorrow. But if the country is stagnating, if the people are not living ever better and better, prosperous and more prosperous, then they could get themselves into trouble. So corresponding, the Communist Party of Chinese Communist Party has to stick to that promise and to act in that in direction of enabling the fulfillment of that promise. And as I said, if the United States are now going crazy and separating themselves from their main manufacturer or source of production, which is People's Republic of China, then China has a major problem insofar that it has to find a new market for items it is exporting. And in that case, why not doing business with India? It's a potentially much bigger market than the United States.
Yeah.
It is not yet that rich, but in the future, it's definitely going in that direction. China is going to overtake the United States in a few years as the biggest economy on the world. India is on the best way of doing the same. So better do that on time, while the Americans are not well established in India, and the Westerners even less so, than be late and then have to fight the competition. And so you can see the Chinese doing the same already in Europe as well. They're coming here and foremost discussing things or negotiating things with people like Orban, people who are anti-European Union, who are politicians, top politicians who are anti-European Union, who are having what kind of designs separate from European Union, but also with the European Union. And they come to the European Union and say, listen, we are not interested in fighting wars. We just want economic development. So if the Americans don't want to cooperate with you, let's cooperate, you and us.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just felt that, what the Americans have ended up doing post-Operation Sindoor is just changed the entire world for us here in India. So very interesting times.
I can imagine that very well, yes.
Yeah. We just are watching out for what happens next, Tom. Pleasure speaking to you as always. I think today we went from military to a little bit of diplomacy as well, but great to talk to you. Very, very a fresh perspective from you, like always. I'm sure our viewers will enjoy. The last time we spoke, we had a great response to that, Tom. Close to a million views. Fantastic. Look forward to connecting with you again. Thank you for your time, Tom.